Hey everybody. On our recent Zen course, we looked at some of the experiences in life that, when viewed from the perspective of a mind trying to find stability or an identity trying to be someone, prove itself, or a desire to only have certain emotions, certain mindsets, certain events, how these experiences are like torture. They're like our worst fears coming true, really. And how actually the suffering inherent in these experiences is actually the opening or the portal, the gateway towards a infinitely more true experience of what we are, and therefore an alignment of behavior and actions and way of living with the actual truth of our existence. And I thought it might be useful, actually, maybe through our podcasts and videos, to look at some of these one by one. And today we're going to look at control, because control from the perspective of an isolated me, and everything is on my shoulders, and there's a limited, separate, isolated me in a world that is dangerous and risky and volatile. Control seems to be the lifeline, doesn't it? Control is like the nirvana. It's it looks to be like when I have control of all this, then I'll be okay, then I'll have peace. And what we can consider is that sense of an isolated me, that idea of me, is created largely during childhood and then is continued to be built on over the years. And particularly when childhood has been insecure, volatile, because remember, we're being brought up by people who are confused to a greater or lesser extent. Some of us lucky enough to have parents whose way of life, whose way of living, whose understanding is closer to the truth of what we are, and therefore their behaviors are steady, their engagement with us is strong and healthy. But for others, the adults are deeply confused, and so the environment in which that self idea is developing can be precarious emotionally. It can have the roller coaster of attention coming and going. It can be financially insecure. It can be violent. We can be witnessing behaviors of numbing and distraction and frustration that create a deep sense of unsafety for us. And the idea of what we are, the idea of other people, the idea of how the world is, the idea above all of what safety is, of what home is being acquired in that existence. And so when, as an adult, we're trying to, we've spent our lives really, and we've got to this stage now, looking for peace, looking for a sense of what we are that is tuned really to what we knew as babies, but which has been layered out of it, or so layered over that almost invisible. We're trying to find peace, and we're trying to find peace within this idea of us as isolated and in a world that is volatile and scary, because that's the learned idea. It's not true in the sense that it's not objectively real. It's the lived experience based on what has been acquired, what's been learned. And the idea of control is central in that. It has to be. Because the more chaotic everything is, the more we try and find the things that actually are, we can control. You know, like a teenager who's going through all the chaos of puberty and friendships and pressures and school and not knowing what they are, what, you know, that total confusion. To, you know, you can see how an eating disorder develops out of that to just be able to control food, or a, you know, a teenager that's found the refuge of gaming within that chaos, to be able to control that character on the screen when everything else is in confusion. It makes total sense, doesn't it? Like, that's my stability. That's where I can navigate from. That's an area that I can know. But really, what we're considering here is that search for control is born from an erroneous idea of what I am and of what the world is. Because the stability that we're trying to find from control can never ever be found, can it? There is nothing that can ultimately be controlled, nothing. It might look like it temporarily, that we, you know, a person or an object or an event can be momentarily pinned down, but really it's a false control. And the stability that we're trying to find in that control, really the stability is what we are already. Existence is stable, consciousness is stable, intelligence is stable, life is stable. Peace, love, really, when we really get into it, are stable. And the more there's the attempt to control, the more that ultimate, infinite, absolute stability of existence is hidden. And so this is what's going on with control. When it's being approached from a mind or an understanding or a belief or an identity that is desperate for stability, and it's desperate for stability because it looks like that's what we are. We are this fragment. We are this limited, autonomous entity. When it looks like that's what we are, we're desperate for stability, because we're like in that moment, the experience of being is cut off from the stability, the ultimate stability of being. So we're desperately trying to find control. And then when we don't have it, it's torture. It's torture. The suffering is immense. And the suffering, when that understanding of what we are is unquestioned, the suffering takes us deeper into more attempt to control. It's a completely vicious circle. But like all of the things that we've been looking at, all these aspects of experience, the suffering really is saying, always it's saying, no, that is not where peace is going to be found. That is not what you are. That is not what the world is. That is not what has to happen. Come back to presence, come back to the simple truth of what you are, the simple life that is the only truth of you, which is animating this temporary form, but what you are is life. Come back to that. And when that happens, when the experience of being settles into the ultimate stability, which is what being is, the need to control falls away. It falls away. There is not, firstly, because it's impossible to control anything, and then secondly, because it's not necessary. And it doesn't mean that doing stops. I think this is just like last, no, this is a long video, but the last thing, doing and control are not synonymous. Doing is happening all the time. Life in form is action, isn't it? It's movement, it's growth, it's expansion, it's change. Doing is happening all the time, but control has no relation to that whatsoever. Control is an illusion. Yeah. Good. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.